Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well. Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television.
I'd like to welcome you to the Exeter Planning Board on Thursday, October 23rd, 2025, at 7 p.m. in the NOAC room of the Town Office Building located at 10 Front Street, Exeter, New Hampshire. And introduce the board. I'm Langdon Plummer, I'm chair, and to my left is our vice chair.
Aaron Brown.
Gwen English.
Marty Kennedy.
John Gruder, clerk.
Jen Martell.
Dean Hubbard.
Sam McLeod.
Our selectmen's representative, Nancy Lajon, is not here this evening, and we do not have a substitute for her, so 6 of us will be acting, and the alternates will be alternates this evening. Yeah. Okay. First item on the agenda is continued public hearing at the application of Cayley Associates for site plan review and shoreland conditional use permit for the proposed redevelopment of property at 97 Portsmouth Avenue. Developers proposing to demolish the existing Blue Ribbon Dry Cleaner building on the site and construct a multi-use building to include commercial space, amenities, and 14 residential units with parking and associated site improvements. Property is located in the C2 Highway Commercial Zoning District and is identified as tax map parcel number 65-125, and it's planning board case number 25-3. I guess we'd start to ask if Carol has anything to say this evening. Start us off.
No, staff has completed review of this. We've had nothing to add since the plans that you have already seen.
Thank you. I'd like to start off with,
Do you want me to start?
when we can begin? Sure.
Thank you all for coming. We know this has been drawn out a little bit. Appreciate your patience as we work through this application. I do want to start by just informing the parties present of how we're probably going to proceed. Lang is our chair. He'll ultimately decide, so if I misspeak, Lang, I apologize. We're probably going to discuss a few things ourselves, then open it up from feedback to the from the applicant, and then as well as I do think we'll take limited public comment tonight as well. First thing I want to discuss is that at this stage of this application, I believe, and if I'm wrong, I'm talking to the board right now, we are satisfied that the applicant has proper access per the requirement of the town of Exeter. So we don't need to discuss that any further this evening, in our opinion. If somebody objects, you certainly can put it on the record. We're going to limit that time frame. Additionally, I believe that the board is satisfied that the application meets the parking requirement of the MUND. With that being said, I think we should bring it back to the board and discuss.
Okay.
So I think we should have an internal discussion in public about the application, and then probably bring the applicant back for feedback, and then potentially public comment, meaning looks like abutters.
Oh.
Do you have anything, Marty, you want to discuss?
I guess I would share that, and based on everything that I've heard up to this point, I do believe that the parking demand will result in people parking on the adjacent lots. I also believe, based on everything that I've heard, that they have a right to do that by the easement. I also believe that motorists who are traveling to and from the parking into the back, the residents who will live in the condos, they're going to travel through the manor parking lot. And my understanding is they have a right to do that, an access right. And so that's where I stand.
Glenn?
Yeah, I concur with Marty. It is in our regulations that they only need one parking spot per unit, and they have met that. I fully agree that I believe that there'll be parking on abutting lots at night during the day, but that's out of our control. We may be talking mostly right at the moment about parking, but just as a traffic pattern, I am very concerned about people potentially entering into what is the drive passageway between Blue Ribbon and the bank. I think it's a very confusing and unappealing entrance to that site. I think because there are so many entrances off Portsmouth Avenue, there's a lot of traffic. I think it's a little overwhelming for drivers who want to get into any of those buildings. Personally, I think that coming into the main lot that goes into Margarita's feels the safest to me. But they'll be using that entrance between the proposed building and the bank, and I'm concerned about that. I think it's a safety issue, not only for drivers, but also pedestrians. I have other concerns, but I think those can be dealt with later after we've talked about this.
Well, I see it as shared parking, because you have residents needing parking at different times and people that are coming to shop or go to the bank. And that happens many times in this town, because there's always adequate parking, but it may not be just where you want to park. But it can be shared different times of the day, then that helps keep more green and less black, and better for the environment. So I think that traffic patterns sometimes work themselves out, sometimes we have to have other avenues, but I think probably we're okay. I do have other concerns, but just want to check with landscaping and lighting and those other details. John, you?
No, it's very similar. I think that the applicant has met our standards, and that's what I can be concerned about. I may not like the parking arrangements, but I'm not gonna, we have no jurisdiction over changing these easements back and forth, so I'm okay with the project as far as our jurisdiction goes.
Jen?
So I agree with everyone else on the access and parking requirements being met. I have a lot of concerns about this being a MUND application and the site plan itself not actually meeting quite a few of the requirements of our MUND in terms of pedestrian access, circulation, bicycle facilities. There's pages and pages of design standards that are supposed to be met. I don't think we've had the opportunity to discuss that, and I hope that we can discuss that tonight. I'm also concerned about I'll stop there. I mean, I don't want to get into too much detail on that yet until it's time, but I would like to have, I'm concerned that we are so focused on the access to the site that we haven't had a chance to actually just review the site plan, which to me is lacking in a lot of ways. And I think it could be made better, but we haven't had the chance to even talk about it, and we're already, 4 meetings in, so that's all.
Dean or Sam? No? Okay.
You want to hear from the applicant, or do you want to?
Sure. The applicant would like to speak? You may open that up and what they have to say.
All right, good evening. I'm Josh Lanzetta. I'm an attorney at Breton and Ruby. Some new faces here for me
So
tonight.
would you speak a little more
Sorry.
into the microphone? Thank you.
Some new faces here tonight, so nice to meet you guys. I represent Jeff Calley and Calley & Associates. We did prepare, or I prepared, a pretty exhaustive presentation regarding the easements for you. We submitted that a couple of weeks ago as Exhibit A, and then Exhibit B, summarizing the chain of title for the blue ribbon. If I'm hearing that access and parking are now not an issue, I think I can save us some time tonight and not go through that. However, if some of the access influences the design standards that you might want to talk about, I'd ask to be allowed to then kind of jump into that presentation to clarify certain items. So I don't know what's going to come up. I have a pretty rote way through that, and so I'm happy to omit that for now, but I think if it seems like it might be an issue, it might be worth everyone's time to have me explain my way through that. I did speak with Laura today. I've also spoke with attorneys Fahey and Hilson and went through this presentation with them. So everyone is relatively apprised of our opinion. My opinion hasn't changed since we began, but after hearing your feedback, I tried to break it down in a much different way. So I'm happy to kind of wait if we need to, but just would ask for a little grace and the ability to jump into that presentation if the feedback requires it. Other than that, we are asking you to grant the application tonight. There are 2 waivers that we've spoken about. I don't think we have to jump back into those either, but I'm happy to kind of be quiet, if you will. I've lost my voice. My kids have whooping cough, so I'll be. I'm happy to be a little quiet tonight, unless it seems like we need to get into the meat and potatoes of this on rebuttal from the abutters. So.
Sure. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to start with the discussion that Jen was
Yeah, I think
leading
Jen
us
oughta-
into? Probably makes the most sense to me.
Okay.
And then that would be, I think, helpful for everybody here, including the abutters as well as the applicant, and then we can get into allowing them to weigh in, right?
Sure.
So Jen, do you want to start that?
Sure. I mean, I think I'm not super prepared to go into detail in terms of like all of the different standards, but to me, we have this MUND ordinance, which goes pretty clearly into what's required in terms of, I mean, I can start with the pedestrian facilities, bicycle facilities. So the site plans are supposed to encourage pedestrian and bicycle circulation. And it provides some design techniques to facilitate that, which I do not see in the plan. One of which is that pedestrian connections that cross parking lots must be designed to clearly show that the space is primarily dedicated to pedestrian traffic using raised or alternative surfaces, signage or raised landscaped islands that serve as safe resting area for pedestrians between automobile travel lanes. And it also says somewhere that striping across asphalt is not adequate to achieve this goal, which I believe is what is in the proposal. There's no bicycle facilities as far as I can tell in the plans, unless I'm missing it. Okay, bike racks, that kind of thing. So I don't think that the plan is encouraging bicycle use. In terms of pedestrian use, there is a waiver to go from an 8-foot wide sidewalk to a 5-foot wide sidewalk. I would argue that is, we can talk about, obviously it's not time to talk about the waiver, but when that comes up, to me, that is explicitly against the intention of the MUND. Furthermore, I'm very concerned about the grade changes on the site. It's a pretty steep site when you're talking about pedestrian travel. Pretty much, I feel like there's, for example, the coffee kiosk, which I still don't totally understand what it is not accessible to a pedestrian. You have to walk across grass or a parking lot to get to it. Even if it was accessible, the route, if it had like a concrete sidewalk, the route is steeper than 5%, which is not considered an accessible route to somebody in a wheelchair, per the Americans with Disabilities Act. The sidewalk is not accessible. So like, there's just a lot of accessibility concerns. I feel like the entire site is taken up by parking spaces and to me, what I think is probably unnecessary that, like, I don't really understand why the coffee kiosk is a requirement. I also think, the intention of the MUND is to screen parking. This has parking right out front. I know that's an existing condition, but it's like being redesigned to keep the parking in the front. Like, if you're redesigning the site, why can't we just put all the parking in the back? And just in terms of the parking, I'm very concerned about the people backing up into drive aisles of people exiting a bank. I don't think that that's, access aside, it can be legal, but that does not seem safe to me. So I'll leave it there. I think the architecture of the actual building, I would argue, maybe doesn't meet the requirements of the MUND, but that's a whole other conversation. If we wanted to bring up the architectural elevations and pick them apart, we could probably do that. I don't know if that's the appetite of the board tonight, but.
Has to happen at some point.
Yeah.
It does. I echo every concern you have outlined.
Could I ask, maybe ask the board, as a relatively new member of the planning board, trying to understand our regulations, as I read the regulation regarding the MUND, it says an applicant may petition the planning board for a conditional use permit in conjunction with the site plan to develop the mixed-use neighborhood development. So what does that mean? That means that they need to come in and demonstrate to us that they've met all the requirements of the MUND and that we need to make a decision on that? Or are we just making that as part of the site plan approval? Or are we making that as a separate decision, that they first meet it, and if they meet the conditions of the MUND, then they can proceed with developing a site plan that, using the MUND? That's, I'm a little.
They present an application, they ask for consideration under the MUND, and we determine if it meets the requirement. Just like any other regulation.
Have we done that yet or not?
We're doing that now. So really, no, we haven't. I think that we're only part of the process too, though. They've had technical review, they've met with staff, and then we're part of that. But they, just like any other application, they put it together, and then we decide we apply the standards of the MUND against their application to determine if it meets the requirements, and that's what Jen is beginning the dialogue on. Does that answer your question, Mark? Okay.
Yep.
So going through those requirements is quite appropriate at this stage.
Well, based on what Jen just enlightened us about, we don't have a complete plan.
Well, I think they do have pedestrian access. Don't they have we should get the plan up. Can we get the plan up?
Here, Judge? I'm sorry?
Sheet
I was
four.
going to scroll it for him. What are we looking for?
The plan?
The plan.
Site plan?
I don't have it on this. This is
You
just-
don't?
Yeah, just.
Oh, okay. All right. So I think they did don't they have the walkway around the back of the building?
They still have that? That's
Got this.
There's a 5-foot wide concrete
Walkway.
It's by,
sidewalk
between
around.
that and the manor property.
No.
No, on the other side, the bank property.
There's no pedestrian connections to the adjacent parcels.
That's narrow
Oh, that's the wall.
landscaping along there,
Yeah.
basically leaving, I think, what's there.
And is that, tell you how wide that is? I mean, two cars are gonna get through there at the same time?
How wide what is?
What?
It's
What are
right.
you asking?
Is the roadway between the bank
That's the side.
and the apartment?
To get from the apartment.
Wide enough for just
Oh.
two
To the
lanes?
front, and then
That's one lane.
Well, so, but we've been talking about like
Remember
two,
the
because
Oh.
if someone's gonna follow the exit pathway there and someone's at the window getting,
Well, it's-
cashing a check.
It's multiple lanes here, but they would merge into one.
If you look at sheet 8,
But that's.
if you look at sheet 8,
landscaping plan.
Yeah,
Well, she's saying you pulled the plan from the website, from the.
I'm on the wrong packet.
sheet 8,
August 2nd.
the landscape plan,
Yeah,
it does show the sidewalk.
Yeah, which they asked to have 5 feet.
Well, no, it shows the sidewalk internal to the site, not the one at the end on Portsmouth Ave.
These sheets aren't numbered off. I can verify. Oh, I see, yep, okay.
When you come out of the drive-up window and you take a left to get out, there's cars that want to get out too. That's not wide enough for 2 cars.
No, it's not.
So,
This is the way.
so I'm not going to wait behind you. I'm going to find another way to get out of there.
Yeah.
Just really saying that's the part of the traffic plan really is not a good traffic plan.
Tough one.
They're out of their entrance.
I think it's going to be similar, my own personal opinion is it's going to be similar to the gas station we approved on 27. You been there?
Yeah.
The newer
The
one?
Nerea.
What's it called?
The Nerea.
Nori.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been
The
there?
Amatos.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
It actually,
Too many
on
times.
paper, it looked like an accident waiting to happen. I've been there enough times, and I've never had an issue. I mean, I'm surprised how well it actually works in the real world.
If that was like a Dunkin' Donuts, it probably would be.
Yeah, that's
a little
right.
different. Or Starbucks.
Yeah, you tuck that right in there, we're in trouble.
Time I went
But they
there, I
haven't,
got the
so
free car
it's
wash.
worked.
Yeah, right.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just listening to the commentary, I think I can provide a little feedback
Sure.
or shed a little light on the
Could you-
traffic
could you
flow.
speak a little
Sorry,
closer to-
Sorry, yep, sorry, my voice is.
My old ears don't hear everything.
Yep, sorry about that.
Thank you.
So, and I think we've taken it down now, but in the easement packet that I presented, there are permitting documents. I came and sat here with Barb for about 5 hours and pawed through all the dusty redwoods for all these properties a couple of weeks ago. And I pulled out all of the permitting from when the first redevelopment of what is now the Bank Prov property happened.
What are we leading to in this discussion?
The internal traffic safety and traffic flow,
Okay.
including the pedestrian
All right.
ways. So essentially, Bank Prov was Roar's, the dairy bar, that was demolished. It was developed into Kentucky Fried Chicken in the early 90s. That plan required, or was proposed with a
I think
drive.
we've already stated we're agreeing as a board that there is access and there
Yeah,
is parking.
It's not about the.
Yeah,
access.
no, my
like to
question
hear
is
that we
about the
don't like it.
internal pedestrian.
You're going to have to hear that we don't like it.
Yeah.
No,
You're going to have to accept opinions, okay? That's not a vote against. We've already said you have it. So rehashing that,
It's outside of what I'm actually trying to explain. I'm
oh,
just
then
trying to
get
give the
there,
context.
please.
So the planning board, when Kentucky Fried Chicken was developed, forced the unidirectional parking traffic
aware.
flow onto the Blue Ribbon lot and also onto the Bank Prov lot.
Town
We're-
wanted that.
Yes.
Yes, we're aware.
And it was against the Fieldston's objection
We are
at
aware.
that time. That traffic pattern is the traffic pattern that we're proposing because there's no other traffic pattern that is available to the applicant for any sort of redevelopment or just remaining as it is. So we are forced into the laneway and the dimensions that we have shown because that's what exists and we have no other choice. No other application or plan, given the size of this lot, will have a different ingress and egress. That has been forced on these lots for decades. So we're willing to, if the striping isn't enough and we can talk about alternative services, happy to do that. If the waiver for the 8 feet out front, that's only because we're just saying this might look very odd to have the larger, it would be the only piece of sidewalk that's that large on the entire strip, right? So that's what that waiver was about. It wasn't to reduce safety as much as it was to match what's already there. And the internal ways we can certainly discuss and would be very amenable to signage, different materials, and what have you to clarify or make those better in any way that we can. But
That's great.
we
That's
are
the discussion
forced-
we want to have.
Yeah, we are forced into the bounds of that laneway.
Yep.
There's nothing we can do about it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We definitely want to try to improve the plan.
Sure.
So Jen, that would be a really good opening if you're ready.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess I'll just focus on internal pedestrian circulation, from your parking spaces to your buildings, from from the covered espresso bar to the mixed-use building, from your, 7 parking spaces to either of those places. Basically, those 7 parking spaces, I have a lot of issues with them. One of them is that it's on a pretty steep slope. So typically in a parking lot, you don't want to go over 5% because you open your car door and your car door goes flying away from you if you're trying to park on a hill. You're parked on like a 7% slope, which is not great. But then you get out of your car. If you're in the parking spot all the way on the right, you open your car door, you're going to be at a stone wall. If you can make your way out of your car, then you got to walk either into traffic or into the grass. There's no thought to how people will walk around this site. There's a lot of thought to how people will cram their cars into the site, but I feel like no thought has been given into how people walk across the site. I'm also concerned that your ADA parking space is as far away as it could possibly be from the commercial entrance to the site. ADA parking spaces are supposed to be closest to the commercial entrance of the site. And you got to park way in the back of the building, walk all the way around the building on a little 5-foot wide path, and then you get to your commercial spaces. Then you can't even get to the coffee. If you're in a wheelchair and you want to get to the covered espresso bar, too bad. There's no access. I don't know if it's something that can be fixed with signage and materials, to be honest. I think it's something that frankly, the building placement and the site plan really needs to be reconsidered.
I appreciate that. The steep slope, I believe that it is ADA compliant as it's drawn. And
It's not.
building-
I'm a professional. It's my job, but it's not. 5% is ADA. This is above that.
are we over 5%?
It's 8%.
It's 8%, okay.
And then they're engineering as well.
So I thought that was, I thought it was 8%.
You need to have handrails if you go up to 8%. You can go up to 8.3, but you need to supply handrails, which I don't see on the plans.
We can adjust that at the grading, adjusting the location of the building on this particular, we had other ideas that we bounced around with the planning department, who did recommend them on application to us. But there really is no other way to locate this building, hiding parking or moving it forward or moving it doesn't work because of the forced exit and the curb cut. So there's really no way to move this building on this lot. That's part of the problem and why we're proposing what we're proposing, trying to stay, keep it where it is. Some of these, I understand what you're saying, and certainly we could move an ADA spot to a different doorway if we need to and switch that with another spot. That's not a problem. Bikes, there's plenty of space where we could get bike storage. It's not a problem. We can add that easily. That's the other comment that I've heard, but.
I'm curious if you looked at, I'd be curious to see the previous iterations of the plan because I'm kind of surprised that this is what was landed on. So the existing parking for the dry cleaner, you come in and then you kind of take a left and you park kind of facing the dry cleaner, right?
Right.
So basically using that place that's now a grassy slope. And I'd be curious to see what that looks like in plan, because then you would at least get rid of the weird parking on a slope situation, because you'd be parking, nose into the slope, which is a lot better.
So facing which direction, I'm sorry?
Building.
Yeah, so kind of like how it is today, where you're, if you pulled in front of the dry cleaner, and then, you could either park to the right or to the left, and basically taking up that grass area with parking, and then maybe do some more landscaping to make up for the loss of the green space. I don't know. I mean,
I
we
think
can't
that-
obviously redesign it tonight, but
Right, and I think some of that green space was attempting to comply with the directive of the bond, right? They're
Yeah.
wanting the landscaping forward, which then does provide screening. So that was the applicant's effort to do that.
Right, but I don't think
provide
your
those design
grass, I don't think your lawn area is providing any screening. That's just grass.
We did talk about plantings there at the last couple of meetings, about adding plantings.
Did we see trees?
And again, we can add
I didn't think
more or
that.
less screening. I think the applicant overwhelmingly were very flexible on adding those sort of items in as you ask. So,
I think Jennifer's point of the amount of time in this hearing that we've spent on access easements and parking has taken us off track of working the plan. So
sure.
understand we're behind the 8 ball on that and having feedback and back and forth, and appreciate your willingness to hear what we're saying and work with us. It's going to be a little bit dynamic tonight because of that, because we haven't had the chance to have these discussions at all.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
totally understand. And unfortunately, we don't have Christian here tonight.
Right.
He was injured.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I'm here to talk about easements, so,
He's got to stop going to those weddings.
that's right.
He blowed his knee.
These are-
Christian Smith.
Have you decided yet what's the retail on the first floor?
I mean, we proposed it as a coffee shop.
No,
So you're,
no, and the first floor of the building's a coffee shop? I thought it was the outside thing.
Front section, that's the kiosk.
Yeah, the front of the building is proposed
Not,
as the coffee shop.
the kiosk is separate. That, you don't,
Yes.
you don't get your coffee there, you drink it there?
It's the same.
It's an addition.
It would be the same operator.
Same
You
thing.
we
Same,
would-
so I go inside, I can sit inside or I can sit out, okay.
Right.
But if you
That
go
wasn't
inside
good.
there and get coffee and want to go to the covered espresso bar, you got to walk across a bunch of grass.
Covered espresso bar, so there's out, what is it?
I think we're open to discussing improving that.
Yeah.
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 There is a
So,
patio there.
I mean,
Yeah.
it would be good to see a hard, like, an actual path, I think, connecting. If you're telling us the program is going to be covered espresso bar, outdoor patio, kind of cool amenity space, and then a commercial space with a patio, there's going to be, people are going to want to walk between those two things, and you're not providing any access. So I would recommend providing a sidewalk that connects the two. Perhaps that sidewalk also connects those parking spaces,
parking
so people
spaces.
can walk out of their parking space and
Yeah.
get to where they're going without having to, again, walk across the grass.
Okay. So I believe, and again, I don't have Christian here tonight, but that was proposed, that walkway. And after Christian talked with the town engineer, they decided to take that off of the plans.
Okay, well, and I
Well, the town engineer doesn't sit
It's
on
not
the
the-
board.
yeah.
so. Can be frustrating, I get it.
Yeah, well, so the
A
thing
lot
is
of different angles, right?
Yeah, we did go in good faith through, and as of you, we talked to the planning department. We've been through a number of iterations over a year. We also did talk to the engineers. They had no further feedback or comments. We did provide the traffic assessment, no significant impact internally. So we did all of that, trying to address all of these items,
Yeah.
acknowledge them and addressing them, and we have consistently, I think, taken the feedback and tried to make those changes. And I know this is the first time that we've met. I don't know if you were here earlier. I was only involved in the last 2 meetings because of the easements, but we have tried to take the feedback and are willing to continue, but we would need a solid directive if if we put a path back on, then the engineer tells us to take it off again, and then that's the sort of thing that we have to avoid. The grass is there because of the MUND requirement. That's why it's there. So,
If he's looking for feedback regarding a permanent walkway from this board, I'm in favor of a permanent walk between the kiosk and the building, as well as because it can also be leading you to the main drag, right? I mean,
It connects those two anyway.
yeah.
But I think also, unfortunately, it's problematic because
It
it's
is.
going to be steep. It's
It
going to be
is.
too steep, it won't be accessible, so.
but we could add rails if we had to, right? Like there's
Yeah,
a way
it
to
could be a
find that
ramp.
compliance.
Yeah, you can break it with stairs
Yeah,
as well, right?
We can do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I mean, you can make it.
Christian will have to
it
do
can
some
actually be a nice
regrading,
feature,
in there.
Right?
Sure.
You can slope it out.
Yeah, if I can just comment on that. for a
Sure.
minute. I'm Jeff Cayley. How are you guys?
Can you use the microphone, please?
Yeah, Jeff Cayley. How are you? The walk was on there. For some reason, it got taken off because of some discussions that were ongoing with the board and whatnot. I think it was just because of the slope and then being able to still be able to walk across the grass. It got eliminated. Me personally, I don't have a feeling one way or the other if we had a walk.
Yeah.
It's not like anything that I'm opposed to one way or the other. Bike racks, not opposed to that. I already thought about that, adding that to this project as
Right.
well. One of those like e-bike type things, so
Right.
people who are residents there are visiting and grab it and they can truck around
love it.
town. So that's where my heart's at on that. So we're not opposed to the walk thing. As far as the width is concerned, whether we do that 8 feet, it's only going to be 8 feet, 30 feet long
Yeah.
into the site. That's why we're asking for the variance, just to match the existing sidewalks on Portsmouth Ave. You know, if you guys want us to do it, I think Christian was pretty clear about that at the last hearing that he did speak at two hearings ago. We'll make it 8 feet if the board wants that. I'm not opposed to that either. If there's extra plantings, as far as the walls are concerned, that was my input, okay, to the landscape. It was not a requirement, but it was like, I want to do something nice and attractive, on this property, so we're looking to implement these walls to kind of just enhance the look of the product, the aesthetics of it. As far as the handicap parking is concerned, I think it can go right in the front as well, which takes care of that problem of the door swinging open and hitting a retaining wall, or eliminate the retaining wall. We're flexible either way, but we were talking through this and we were making changes to the plan all along.
Sure.
So that's all so there's no resistance here with
Yep.
making these minor tweaks.
Yeah, it's an evolution, it's part of the process, and there are different voices that any applicant obviously goes through as they land here, and there's different voices from this table as well, so, I mean, to me, having a walkway, an attractive walkway, makes sense to me. I think if you're designing it, you probably put some stairs in it at certain points to get rid of the slope and minimize it, and that's probably just a real way to do it. I know that impacts wheelchairs. I don't know if a ramp is feasible, just a slope because of the
You could do
difference.
like a zigzaggy path
Like
too,
I say,
like a little.
wind it up,
Yeah.
path it.
Yep. There's lots of ways to approach it.
Yeah.
That's true. I guess that would be something to put in your notes, is that we'd like to see a creative way, an attractive way to do
Connect
that.
to make it.
Bearing the mind, handicap is something we have to consider, right? We all do. So, trying to accommodate all people with it.
Yes.
So I have, so far, to add a bike rack facility, to confirm the grade changes by either on the whole property, but for the path, it may be a cow path, as you've said, or we might have to add rails or steps. I also have, again, reiterating, a walkway connecting the two spaces. I think these are really easy things to do. Staying off of asking for the waiver, that we're flexible on that. And again, that was proposed just aesthetically to make everything line up with what's there now. And then we also are proposing, after Ms. Martell's feedback, we're happy to change textures, surface textures, if that is better in this particular, in the entire facility as a whole. If the striping isn't enough, I think that some of those ways where it is proposed to be striped and to cross, it crosses property lines very fast, and the width is very narrow. So in that situation, understanding that the MUND suggests certain, different structures or something, it might be better to have a flat and striped area crossing some of these. We'd have to ask the engineers about that as a condition of how to appropriately address that. But I think that was spoken about with third party, and it came out as there were no suggestions for that, so that's why it's proposed as it is. So that's the list I have so far, so
An ADA parking space for the commercial property?
up front, sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you probably need one for the commercial property and one for the residences.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they can be shared, but
I would add a robust
I think it should be closest. to
planting
commercial.
plan, particularly on the front of the property. You know, it's limited in size anyway. And if you do robust plantings that are, likely to survive that climate, what's going on there, I think it's pretty sunny. Probably gets pretty hot, a lot of pavement around that area. But that would be nice. I think it's pretty particular.
area on the front?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys ever, I'm trying to think of the name of it. There's a little restaurant in Kittery near the meat market on Route 1, and they did an unbelievable job with
the peach
plantings.
tea.
Yes.
Yeah.
You walk in there,
Yeah.
you feel like you're in the middle of the woods somewhere, right? Something like that would really, I'm not trying to design this for you, but a suggestion would be that would be pretty awesome right there. That one, to me, just stands out. They did such a nice job there.
Can
I
I,
can see in the summertime, that can get pretty hot.
Yes.
You got a thumb sticking out there.
Could have a
painting
palm
around the
tree.
whole thing.
How about a palm tree?
Now you want a waterfall.
Gwen has a question.
How do you say it?
Gwen?
I gotta wait till, I have a question for them once they're done talking.
Let me, while we're waiting, I'll talk to the board. I know they can't do this, but I got to say this. It just seems to me, and it's way too late, but if the applicant here had been able to work with the bank, they could have come up with a really good project here. I mean, I look at that building should be out front, close to Portsmouth Ave. All the parking should be in the back. That driveway to the bank that's currently used that should be closed. And all the access should be going out to Margarita's driveway. And you'd be able to do some wonderful things in there with redesigning the bank and this property and have a really nice site. And I know where you are now, and it's too late for this, but it's a shame that didn't happen.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and that's, when we put a lot of thought into the design standards for the MUND, and, it's a zero lot line setback. The idea is that the buildings are right at the sidewalk. You have a nice, generous sidewalk. You have a building that interacts with it. And I know Portsmouth Avenue is not a great place to walk today, but the idea is that if parcel by parcel we start doing that, then in 20 years, maybe it is a nice place to walk. So it's disappointing to me that the applications we're getting don't seem to be respecting the parkings in the front. It's all the same.
Yeah.
It's like we'll take advantage of the reduced parking and the increased height and density and not do any of the other stuff that should be considered. And I think we need to start holding people more accountable.
From the beginning.
It's very hard to get private party, this is all I do for a very long time. Only working for developers. And I hear you, and even the most thoughtful ordinance can't take into account people. You can kind of only control what you can control.
Yeah.
And so I hear that frustration, and I get it from a cohesive development standpoint. Sure, you wish there are many places. I drive past a plaza in Portsmouth on the way to my house every day where I just look at this entire strip leading right up to the estuary, and it's terrible, right? It looks terrible. The use is terrible. But it's never going to, that's not going to change because getting a bunch of private property owners to agree to that sort of really, really abrupt stop to what's been happening and this new thing that includes raising buildings and relocating, that's almost impossible. Even when even when people have interests, like financial interests in properties that are abutting, I have not seen a lot of that happen, even redeveloping like city blocks. So I hear you, but it's just extremely hard to facilitate that. The ordinance does the best it can with the proposal, and then you try to fit each property in. There's never going to be a property that complies with every single item. It's impossible. That's why there's flex in it. So it's not to say that maybe the bank or Brian and Jeff wouldn't have done that, but it's a very, very tall ask. to be able to comply with that.
Yeah,
That's just
no,
an
I
opinion. That's just
understand.
my opinion. It's
Yeah.
not an excuse or a reason, but very hard to make that happen.
Yeah, I'm still a little, I don't know what the right word is, but with your little kiosk out front, I know you've said that you're not absolutely sure that this will always be a coffee shop, that this could have a different purpose down the road, and I don't know if I misunderstood that, or I don't know if that's still in your thoughts, but my feeling is that, and I think you did say that this primarily would be used by the people who reside in the building. And I'm seeing what our climate trends are and how hot it is in the summertime now. And I'm just wondering how that's going to be welcomed by people to be in this little enclave out in the blazing sun. I just don't know that it's necessary to have that. When I'm not trying to redesign your project, but I almost feel like you've got a potential coffee shop inside. It
With a
seems like it
nice-
would be nice to have.
Nice patio on it.
Yeah, have
Yep.
something outside with a cover. Maybe it is a 4-season area, maybe a little appendage coming off the main building, and just devote the front of that to a beautifully landscaped place where people can, on a nice day, go and sit under a tree if you have a bench or a couple nice Adirondack chairs, and have that be a welcoming. I mean, if we're talking about leaving it like it is and then adding sidewalks, now your green space is just getting
Shrinking.
smaller and smaller and less, in my mind, less appealing. So, try to incorporate this little kiosk in with just do a nice architectural feature in front of the building. Maybe that would satisfy some of Jen's concerns about the building itself, maybe making it look a little bit more homey or welcoming, and just do a fabulous job with landscaping, which will take away, I mean, I'm concerned about people backing out of those 7 spaces into the drive lane, but I think it would just make, I think that would hide some of that, just visually it would hide it. And I'm suddenly taking away a building that you've incorporated into this big design, but I just wonder if you could think about that, and you could probably have arguments against it, which is fine.
Is the
but-
point of the kiosk to be closer to the Mund intent? To be something commercial closer to the road? Is that the point of it?
Yeah, the idea, and I think I'm going to ask Jeff to explain his design concept for this,
Sure.
because I think it's probably better from him. But from an ordinance standpoint, the idea was we acknowledge that the town is trying to make Portsmouth Avenue more walkable.
Right.
This was an amenity for the people residing at the property, but also as far as the location goes, this is pretty walkable from I think I've said this before, but there's a large population, especially the hospital. There are a lot of people on Portsmouth Avenue parked just a couple blocks away. And if it is going to develop into something walkable, this sort of kiosk could be a cool little spot that people say, hey, you know what, I'm going to walk down there today for my afternoon walk, grab a quick coffee, walk back. That's a large part of the intent of it, is to play into the walkability of Portsmouth Avenue as it develops into, hopefully, that sort of walkable pedestrian way. But Jeff, I think it might be better heard from you about your intent in designing it.
No, I think Josh is right on there, because that's where my heart was at. I wanted to do something, again, aesthetically pleasing, bring some more landscape to the edge of the road, have a business that people can just walk to.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm looking at the folks from the Manor. I'm looking at the folks from the bank. I'm looking at all the employees and people that are going in and out of the plaza. They can just walk down there. There are sidewalks right along Portsmouth Ave
Yeah.
to get there. Trying to enhance that walking traffic, that, again, the walks are there. And again, not just have Because we came in originally, remember, we had two buildings at one point, and we had this massive building just 20 feet off the road.
Right.
If you ask me personally, I don't think that's attractive.
Yeah.
You know, from a developer's perspective, I'd like to have a more, nice-looking entry with some landscape.
Yeah.
So it was that idea, plus it also gives like an extra amenity for the folks that live there.
Right.
And they can walk across the lawn if they want, but it's walking traffic, that's where my head was going with that. It's kind of like a little oasis is kind of where my head was at.
Yeah.
With that feature. Embellishing on landscaping, I was listening to our landscape architect. I know that, is it you that does the landscape?
No, Jen.
I am.
Jen is, okay. So being an excavation guy, I love landscape. I wanted to have the ability to, and I was going to embellish upon this anyway. I just didn't know, is that a requirement at this stage? I believe I have the right to embellish further than what we've already done, but I don't know if it's a requirement for the approval of the project.
It's not a requirement, except that we're going to require a landscape plan. So it's a requirement, it's a gray area requirement, Jeff, in terms of this board.
Yep.
We are definitely looking to enhance landscaping on all the projects we see. I don't think we've ever told somebody to scale it back. I think it's been quite the opposite. So bringing that to us is very well received, especially if it's already your intent.
Yes, understood. Yeah, it's just, I just need a little bit of flexibility.
Sure.
To decide to change some bushes and rocks.
Yeah.
And, if we say, that wall isn't really kind of meeting the vision and
Yeah, there's usually
aesthetics we're after, I want to be able to have some flexibility.
Usually we do have that.
Okay.
The town planner does have rights. We've given those rights to the town planner position to do modifications, what we call minor modifications, as the project is built out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
We do have, the MUND does have some pretty clear landscaping requirements and maintenance requirements. So, and I mean, I think, that's all I'll say. Like, it is a requirement of the board to review landscaping, especially for a MUND plan.
Yeah.
And I think things like, trees, if you say, oh, well, we just, like, we're pretty strict about trees. So like, if there's 5 trees on the approved plan and you decide, oh, I'm only going to plant 4, that's not okay.
I would.
But if you change a grass to a different grass, fine.
I would bend more towards getting rid of a rock wall and adding more vegetation.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to see the whole thing as best as possible to say, okay, what's going to look right? And we kind of raised that a little bit to help with the grade situation you were talking about too, Jen. So we kind of raised that, and I said, well, let's put a wall there and kind of dress that sign area up and everything.
Yeah, no, I think the wall in front works really well to terrace the site, and it helps kind of screen the parking a little bit, and I'm definitely not adverse to that. I think it's more just generally the parking stalls, those 7 spots, are just in an awkward location. They're sort of oriented awkwardly, and it's just not really thought through. Like, if I parked in that spot and then there was a wall right next to me, like, that's not great to just open your car door into a wall. So those kinds of things, I think, just need to be thought out a little bit more. I do see, because of the MUND and the benefits you get from the MUND, like, you do need to put a little more effort into design. And that includes just thinking about the pedestrian experience and thinking about just the experience of coming to the site. It's landscaping, it's sidewalks, it's materials, it's, maybe it's, the permeable pavers, I think, are nice. They'll add a nice feel underfoot. But yeah, it's the finishes on those stone walls. I don't know if, I don't remember if those have been detailed out, but like, using natural materials versus like the fake stone would be great. Those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I have Mr. Fields in here tonight. I think it might be helpful to hear from him regarding the plan as it is and the property as it has been, if that's okay. Might take a couple quick minutes to have him just talk about a little bit of this. It just strikes me, we've talked about, or I've heard concern about the directionality of the parking as we proposed it, and I think it might just help to have Brian talk about how the property's used now and what's happened, if that's okay. Just give him a quick couple minutes.
It's the MTV generation. Talk amongst yourselves.
2 minutes is almost up.
Oh, verklempt.
Good evening, I'm Brian Fieldson, the owner of the proposed, or the owner of the current property. In 1967, my father opened a Blue Ribbon Cleaners store and laundromat at 97 Portsmouth Avenue. He entered into a lease by agreement with Benny D'Agostino for 22 years, which at the end of 22 years, Blue Ribbon would take possession of its property. It was bounded on the west by a restaurant and ice cream stand, and on the east by a vacant lot, which is now McLean Manor. Blue Ribbon gave permission for the lot, which is now McLean Manor, to be excavated so as to lower the earth and make it possible for McLean Manor to build a 3-story unit which conformed to Exeter's zoning regulations. Harry McLean, the original owner of McLean Manor, put in stairs for access to Blue Ribbon's building, the restaurant, and the mall, and said he would never put in washers as dryers as part of the deal. When Harry McLean died, Mike Siegel eventually took possession of the property, took out the stairs, installed washers and dryers, contrary to the original agreement. But since the original agreement was a handshake between gentlemen, there was no evidence of such. McLean Manor poured a concrete pad for their dumpster 8 years ago, which trespasses on Blue Ribbon's property. But I agreed with Joyce Snow, who was representing McLean Manor at the time, that the concrete pad would be permitted to stay, but would be removed if we desired it in the future. Vehicles from McLean Manor stop at their dumpster, continue behind Blue Ribbon to exit the area, go to the mall, etc. Pedestrians use this access to shop at the mall. In 1997, Blue Ribbon, as an abutter, allowed Kentucky Fried Chicken with a drive-through to be built. This necessitated travel across Blue Ribbon's lot, which I objected to, but it passed. In 2010, Provident Bank, which is now known as Bank Prov, raised the KFC building, and once again Blue Ribbon was asked to allow a drive-through, which the bank has labeled one way, and give up 5 feet of our passage. Should we remove this 5-foot garden, it would be approximately 22 feet wide. Although Bank Prov traffic exiting from their drive-through crosses Blue Ribbon's lot, we felt it was a good as a neighbor to permit this, which we were not required to do. There's considerable traffic on the lot from our customers. There's considerable parking. Both Bank Prov and McLean Manor have large sections of mulch and grass, green space, which, if they needed for parking, could be changed. We've always tried to work with the neighborhood. Like I said, we've allowed what needed to be done to have the neighbors move in, and that's the way we work.
Regarding the parking volume, I think that's what I was thinking about. So we've got the stalls oriented this way, facing McLean, as proposed. But right now, when people are pulling out, what's the volume of traffic like coming out of the back of the bank over the last, let's say, 10 years? Is it high, is it low?
And coming through the drive-through,
Yeah, as they come down the lane between the two buildings.
we were surprised how little it is. We thought opening a drive-through in a bank, we thought customers would pull through, pull right into our lot, come in. It's never been the case. They either come out and take a left to go to the Margaritas entrance, or they simply drive down through, but I wouldn't call it heavy volume by any stretch of the imagination.
As far as pulling out from your lot into that lane, is it a problem?
No, it's never been a problem. If anything, I see this plan reducing the traffic on our lot. You have people coming into our lot, they come in, drop things off and leave. That could be anywhere from 75 to 120 car trips a day, one in, one out. Currently. You have people coming into the laundromat, they load the washer, they go off on an errand, go to Hannaford, on the Vine, come back, load the dryer, go off on an errand, at another errand. They're in and out 4 to 6 times, just customers in the laundromat. So I see the traffic being reduced. And as far as pedestrian safety, you have a couple of restaurants, Margaritas, Pine Garden, they serve alcohol, and people walk in that dark parking lot every night over to the Hampton Inn. They park in the lot and cross the street to the Thirsty Moose. You've got a lot more traffic down there than you're ever going to have here, I think. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other areas of concern or, Jen, that you have, or?
Sorry, I have one more thing that's kind of, it's just a detail. It's still related to the pedestrian circulation, but I keep seeing this. So there's that crosswalk that's not on your property coming from the bank that just runs into a planting bed?
Which one, I'm sorry?
That yellow, or that's not yellow.
It's
that
like
little dip
right-
in the, right
Right between the two
in
buildings.
the front right corner of
I'll just go up
the
and point.
building.
There you go.
So this crosswalk currently goes to a planting bed, and then you have your sidewalk here. So I'm curious why that doesn't
It-
connect.
The intent is for that to cut, let's see if this works. Maybe. The intent is for that to cut through and not
Okay.
dead end in that planting bed.
Yeah, that's not what's in the submitted plans, so
Right,
that needs to be corrected, yeah.
That needs to be amended.
Is there any way to improve the 7 spots in the front? Obviously, you need the parking. Is there a way, I mean, I think you're going to pull in there. I think it's obvious that when you pull out, you can't back in and back out. You got to go, at some point, you're going to go in reverse. And you're going to be in the lane of vehicles coming at you. I don't know if there's a solution. If there is, I would just challenge you to try to improve it if possible. It's a challenging spot.
Yeah, that's more of an engineering question.
Yeah, it is.
I might not be able to answer.
Yep.
I
That's a
do
set,
know,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I do know that when they designed this, they applied the MBTU standard.
Yeah.
And that's how they got this. So that's why they're able to propose this. It's technically, and I'm not saying that this is the answer. I'm saying it technically, they applied the MBTU standard.
Sure.
It's safe. The distances are safe. The turn radiuses are safe. And I think that's why I just asked Brian about, well, what's the volume like
Yeah.
coming around? Because I had a number of pictures. We did an aerial with a drone. I didn't think it was relevant tonight because I thought we were going to be on a deep easement dive tonight.
Sure.
But in all of those pictures, so Brian has been kind of cataloging the properties through the summer during the course of this. And I mean, he's been there for 60 years, but he started photographing it. And the bank prov lot is almost always empty, especially in the back. There's just simply not a lot of traffic flowing around that structure. And the volume at the Blue Ribbon, I think initially it was like, oh, it's the sleepy little old 60s Blue Ribbon building. And the numbers that Brian has shared with me is astonishing about the ingress egress that's happening now in the same exact traffic pattern that we're talking about. So I do think it actually, and I also think, per the MBTU, that that residential parking, that use is always safer than commercial. It's less egregious, less onerous, and safer than commercial or industrial parking. So by having more parking on the lot for that residential use, I actually think it's reducing and making the property safer generally. I hear what you're saying about there's a mandatory back out here.
Yeah,
Right,
that's just the one, that's all.
Totally see it. It's irrefutable, and I agree with you. But it fits the standard, which is why they proposed it that way. As far as what they usually, and I'm not an engineer, but having just listened to a lot of them yammer during these hearings and evaluating their exhibits, it's the turn radius that matters when they assess, and the distance of the spot has to be finite. So once they assess that, when then that vehicle, whatever it is moving into a laneway, as long as that radius is there, there's a real safety standard that happens. Whether I think it's created from like the old school look over the shoulder, which most of us don't deal with anymore. But that standard of the back out with the relevant turn radius, the depth and width of the stall into the laneway is how they apply. There's a formula. They apply the math to that, and that's how they can say, okay, maybe we need to make this stall 2 feet deeper or not to get that radius. And so I know that was applied here, but
It just makes me wonder if that was angled slightly.
Sure.
Towards the building a little bit when you first entered the first parking spot, if it was angled a little bit closest.
So nose angled?
Yeah, a little bit.
We can certainly evaluate that with Christian.
Yeah, angled, well, it's actually downhill, I think.
No,
but
no, okay.
I don't know how to describe it from here, but
Grass.
cutting into that a little bit,
Yeah,
angling it.
yeah.
So angling it away from the wall when you first enter, not the far end, but the beginning of end.
Right,
Because then when you back out, you're already at somewhat of a proper angle. Because then you're going to pull in, nose in, and you're going to back out of those spots.
Yeah.
But, I mean, any of us who've ever parked in downtown Exeter, it's a heck of a lot more dangerous, in my personal opinion, than what getting out of that spot's going to be.
Well, that's true. There's more traffic.
A lot more traffic and less visibility. So, I mean, if you're going to be real about it, I would find.
Well, we would probably never approve that as a plan anyway.
But we had a long conversation about real-world situations earlier this evening, and that is the real world, so.
Yeah.
There
I
is high
understand.
visibility there.
Yeah.
There is a slope, and we know that the manor was excavated with, the Blue Ribbon's permission, but the visibility, like this satisfies all season safe sight distance, no pun intended, for miles, right? And they have that same sight distance on the front of these few properties because the buildings are set at the same depth, which I think if you were to apply that engineering standard, again, I'm not an engineer, but from what I know about it, having the buildings at the same depth creates a safer internal parking movement environment. And so there is a lot of visibility there. We can certainly, as a condition, ask to review and work with staff about should we angle it.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they did it this way, though, on purpose for that radius.
They probably did.
But again, not an engineer.
Yeah, I guess, I'm wondering if, I'm looking at the Google map, Google Earth, thank you. I couldn't come up with the word, of the existing parking lot, and there's 8 spots that are perpendicular to the front of the building. So there's 4 facing the building, and then 4 facing away from the building, and then there's another 3 that you wouldn't be able to access. But, you could do 7 spots right there. So basically, you would pull in front of the building and then park that way. And I feel like that would just eliminate that whole problem of backing out and the grading issue and all of that. And then you could provide you'd lose your front patio, but
Lose a lot.
Yeah.
you could have like a little walkway and like a nice walkway to the kiosk patio. That's a pretty big patio, and that could be like a bigger amenity maybe. it could be like a really nice landscape, give you room to landscape the parking lot and.
I think the reason it's like this, though, was it is trying to provide multiple pedestrian, if you will, areas on the front of the property, and trying to connect those in a way to make it walkable, appealing.
But I'm sorry, but
difficult
you're not
spots.
providing multiple pedestrian areas in front. You're providing 2 plazas.
Well,
Commercial
a place where
plazas.
people would not be in their car is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like we have 2 of something good instead of 1 of something really good. You know, like why not have a bigger?
You might
Thing
not
that's
have
better.
the room to do everything you want up front,
Yeah.
have it look right and have it work.
I think it's a requirement on the MUN to try to do what he's trying to do. I mean, the business part isn't supposed to be the back quarter of the project.
No. I mean, I like the kiosk in the
Right.
front. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like like I don't know. If the parking worked better that way, it would just be interesting to see.
Should we be considering, given the constraints that we're talking about here, is this an appropriate site for the MUN?
I mean, it's in the MUN
Well, it is the MUN.
zoning district, so
Yeah, but they have to,
it has to, I mean,
again, I go back to what the zoning says. The application may petition the planning board for a conditional use permit in conjunction with the development of MUN. So they need to come to us and I interpret that as they need to demonstrate that this site is, the MUN works. I mean,
So an
that's the way I
overlay.
read that.
I can confirm that for you. So legally, your overlay district is applied to the property that it's applied to. So if the property sits on a tax map in an underlying district or in an overlay district, the overlay district applies.
Regardless of whether
Regardless.
you can meet any of the other.
Correct.
Well, if you can't meet it.
If you can't meet it, it
approve.
doesn't get approved, right? But the district
But it
itself
is-
applies
yeah.
to the underlying tax map
Right.
and parcel.
Right.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to pulse the general feeling of the board here. You like the kiosk idea, expand landscape, right, in the front, and try to give us a walkway from one patio to the next? Are those kind of like 3 bullet points here?
Those are certainly, I'm in favor of all 3 things.
Okay. All right, because
Yeah.
Overall, you got-
I like the kiosk.
Yeah.
I know Jen, you said you like it. I really like this idea because our marching orders is let's get our, walkway from one patio to the other. Let's embellish more on the
Right.
landscaping and stuff like that. I've had the engineers look at this whole grading and everything, but a lot of discussions, but because we have to still match the existing grade.
Yeah.
So we're kind of, working it all out. So I know John at Christian's office has spent a lot of time on that earlier on in the calculations and the grading and why we raised the kiosks up and everything. So we'll take one last look at that. I heard you on the handicap part, the wall that bangs the door thing. Yeah, I mean, we can, look to try to just, go right into a patio situation so we don't have that. So I hear you guys on that too.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, it's not a perfect plan, right? It's not exactly what the vision of the perfect MUN project would be. But if he's doing everything he can to satisfy it, and it does satisfy it, that's what we're really trying to work for here.
Yeah.
So, I think he has to meet a parking requirement. We can't say, throw those 7 spots in front of Margaritas, right? As much as it would be nice to say. And even if they would park there. They are going to be on the site. I don't think there's another place to put them unless you move the building.
And isn't it true though, technically, he could get rid of those spots because he has available parking elsewhere, because he has an easement. I think he needs the parking more, but given the easement rights that we seem to agree he has, he doesn't need those spaces.
I think you're gonna end up, I think we're gonna, well, I don't know. I'm gonna say, I think if this is the plan, he has in front of us, I think it's a much simpler plan for this board to review. Working with those 7 spots on site is probably going to be a lot less cumbersome than not. But it's a good point, Marty. I think that if they were somewhere else, we've heard testimony already from abutters and non-abutters that are in the vicinity that they would object to it vehemently. So this is the plan we have.
I think it's a cleaner application to make sure that we comply by putting all of the parking on the property. I think it'd be very interesting if a board in New Hampshire compelled an applicant to utilize an easement and put parking elsewhere.
Yeah.
I would love to be part of that litigation. But it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting. But and I don't disagree that the parking could go on any of these other lots.
Yeah.
But we've intentionally done this now to hopefully alleviate, and maybe we haven't, but to alleviate consternation from the abutters, and to also comply. And that's the cleanest way for all the parties here to get through at least this process. All of the actual kind of granular nuts and bolts of the plan that we've talked about, Jeff welcomes it. I've got a list here. We'd be happy to work with staff on all of this to make the final plan comply. I'm not always the most equipped from an engineering standpoint to jump in and say, well, if we change this and do, but I have a relatively strong understanding of what's happening. And I think that a lot of this is pretty easily addressed while leaving those parking spots up front. I do think that they're proposed in a safe, I'm not saying in the safest, I'm saying that they are safe based on engineering. Like we have to comply with your ordinance, but we also have to comply with relevant engineering standards, and the plan wouldn't be in front of you, especially from Christian Smith, if it didn't comply. There might be a typo with the, these are big plans, lots of pages. Yes, that walkway should have continued through. That line is incorrect, but that's something we can very quickly fix. I do have a list. I don't know if it's worth me confirming this again with you as we're walking through here so far of what I would look at as conditions to work through with staff. But I've got the walkway to connect the patio to the kiosk. That will involve analysis of the grade, a confirmation of how to structure that path, possible rail systems if necessary. I think Jeff thinks we might be able to get there without that. We talked about alternative textures for internal, and we can only control the internal walkways. I think it's important to note that we can only control the texture of what's there on our actual property. So there would need to be consideration for that we are willing to use alternative textures wherever it's suited. However, if that path has to stop at a property line, we may not be able to get that through with a neighbor. And I'm not saying we can't or that we won't try, but just noting that.
Yeah, and actually, I think that one doesn't apply because you don't have any crosswalks
Are
on
you okay
your
with that? Okay.
property.
So I'll take that one off. The bike rack system, whether it's for regular bikes or e-bikes, great. We'll fix the sidewalk to the planting bed detail that we just spoke about. We're going to assess the ADA parking and bring a spot to the front of the building at a minimum. Confirm the grade changes and rails generally around the property. That kind of interfaces with the walkway comment. And then we'll confirm the planting plan with staff as far as what we need and where it needs to be. That's what I have so far. Whether that's a condition, however you handle that, I'm not suggesting how to. I'm just saying that's what I have. Have I missed anything?
I personally would not be supportive of the 5-foot sidewalk waiver. But that's just me, so I don't know how the rest of the board feels about
But
that.
I think I'm on the same side of you on that. I know it's makes it inconsistent, but I can also remember helping my mother-in-law with a property in Nashua, and we were required to put a sidewalk in front of her house because we subdivided a lot, and there were no sidewalks. And that was 15 years ago, and now there's sidewalks.
Yeah.
We were the first ones. So sometimes it's what happens, you know, you're the 8-foot guy, maybe the next guy, they do something, a modification, we encourage that. And we've been doing that down on 27, so we're trying to make our sidewalks as robust as possible, even though they may not always match because of the different owners.
Sure.
Jen, you're speaking of the sidewalks.
That wasn't our waiver debate, that was just feedback, by the way.
Sidewalks around the building or just
No,
on?
Portsmouth Ave.
The one that connects from Portsmouth Ave up to the,
The front of the property.
Yeah, okay.
yeah. I think around the building, I just don't think they have the
Well, same thing
space.
happening
Yeah,
up
they
in Rome.
can't do it.
Right. Yeah.
That's what's there. Has been there.
One other thing I just thought of, do we have EV charging on this? Does anyone
You
know?
know, you had just talked about the bicycle and the,
Yeah, that's what made me think of it, the e-bike thing.
The
is there EV parking?
EV parking,
Or,
electric vehicle.
like, yeah, the charging station there?
No, no
They
charging
don't have to
station.
have that either.
They do, for multifamily, it is a requirement now to provide the conduit, at least, the electrical conduit so that it's EV ready.
Okay.
So
That's fine.
that's a requirement, so.
And the
I think it's
sidewalk-
one, I think it's like
We-
per
well,
number of
we-
units.
We did that, but, and I can remember one place and they put it in, they wanted to put, they were gonna put the underneath, but this is all outside. I mean, where's it gonna come from? Is it gonna have
Well,
the
it's got to serve at least two
Two cars, right?
cars.
Yeah, I
Put
forget.
Yeah.
put the conduit in that you can have that 2 cars.
Yep.
That's fine. To clarify the sidewalk waiver, although it's not the waiver deliberation, but to clarify that, that applies only to the sidewalk for the frontage of the property. That requirement doesn't apply on the internal. And we've provided the biggest sidewalk that we can actually fit, given the bounds of the building where it currently sits now.
Yes.
So I just wanted to clarify that. I didn't know if there was discussion.
Portsmouth Avenue.
We're talking Portsmouth.
Yeah, it's the walk that goes up from Portsmouth Ave,
Just
exactly
Portsmouth.
right.
Yeah, that's
Just
the one I
just
was
on the front.
thinking.
Yep.
Yep.
Is that it?
Can I ask a
You
quick
wanna
question?
take a break?
Do you have any HVAC or anything on the top of the roof, or is it all internal in the building? I'm just thinking of noise and visual impact of any,
Yeah, that'll be in the
Building.
the mechanicals, thank you. It's
Not
all
there yet. We're
internal?
not there yet.
Oh, you're not?
No,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be,
Depends on the heating system, yeah.
right, once the building permit process, it would kind of depend on the heating system.
Well, if that's going to go on the site, we need to know where it's
We
going to go.
usually know whether it's on the roof or not, or
Up
just,
top.
It's a slanted roof,
Yeah.
too, so
Yeah.
it'd be tricky.
You couldn't have it.
It's a parapet.
Yeah, where it steps down,
And then
right?
if
So
you
it's a
have-
proposed parapet, so there would be
Oh.
automatic
Oh, yeah.
screening there from anything on the roof regardless. It likely, a lot of that stuff usually ends up on the roof. But with the parapet and the vertical relief, I don't know if you remember or saw I mean, those pictures were submitted a long time ago, but there were some mock-ups from Portsmouth Ave looking at the property to assess the height with the existing tree line to give some, and then McLean Manor, because McLean's relatively tall. It's a misnomer because they excavated the site, but those buildings were actually as tall as they can be there. But so it would be screened, most likely, if it was on the roof.
If you-
I'd like to open the floor to other people if they'd like to speak. Please step forward and use the microphone.
Good afternoon, or evening, excuse me.
Yeah, well, it's getting that way.
Mr. Chair. As most of you know or recall, my name's Chris Hilson. I represent REO Commons LLC, what I've been referring to as the Margaritas lot. I'm going to confine my comments here as short as I can. As we know, I've used no small amount of oxygen and trees to discuss these issues. And I did hear Vice Chair Brown's comments at the outset of the meeting. As a threshold matter, I'll take this opportunity to register my concerns about that. I'm never going to know what Laura Inspector Morgan told you beforehand. There's a reason for that. I have some concerns that there's a conflation here between the easements as between these three lots and my client's lot, and the absence of access and parking easements between these three lots. I don't know what advice you got, but my concern here right now, and what I'm focusing on, is the access and the traffic patterns between here, and whether or not the necessary property rights exist to travel between these three lots. Not talking about my client's lot. Mr. Gruder, you mentioned there's an access from McLean onto the rear of this lot. I'm very confident that that's not the case, but I know that's not for you to decide here tonight, and you've gotten the advice that you've gotten. What I want to talk to you folks about touches on some of the concerns that Ms. Martell and Ms. English have raised already relative to traffic patterns. I mean, let's talk about this for a second. You've been satisfied that there is a legal right for access and parking. That does not discharge your obligations as a board to determine and evaluate the adequacy of that access and that parking as it pertains to this particular proposal. The suggestion by the applicant is, well, we're forced into this traffic pattern given the nature of the property. Ms. Martell, as you ably observed, this is a MUN project. You are given dispensations, you are given flexibility to change your design beyond what is here and not stick to what slavishly exists right now. This building is going to be demolished, and yet it's going to be in the same spot right here. So you're going to be stuck, given this application, with this narrow access way just because this building exists right here. Not proposing to move the footprint up, back, more in line with the MUN, having it closer to the road. They're not doing that. The reason I bring that up is it implicates many aspects of your site plan ordinance, particularly 8.7. And those are still on the table for you to evaluate and make sure that this applicant has met the burden of proof and persuasion before this board. Those requirements still exist. Safe and adequate vehicular and pedestrian traffic, adequacy of parking. I can read my own writing. All those requirements under section 8.7 of the site plan review are still in place, and quite frankly, they're reiterated in your MUND ordinance that talks about adequate design for safe pedestrian and bike traffic. And I submit to you, that's not what is being presented here. You've heard me for months say they're doing too much with this lot. We all know it. We all know this is too much. They're putting too much housing and they're trying to squeeze too much on a postage stamp of a lot. If you look, and credit where it's due, Attorney Lancetta, he's given you the whole thing in his prior submissions. One of them is a memo that I referenced last time from 1997 when we put the KFC there. And this board and the planning department observed the design tasking, and I think that's almost verbatim what they said, the design tasking in connection with that was to minimize the crisscrossing between what's now the Bank Prov lot and this lot. That's what they were trying to do in 1997. Crisscrossing is exactly what is necessary. It's a linchpin of this particular proposal right here. They gotta use this parking in the back. This doesn't work unless they use that parking. They have to crisscross the Bank Prov lot to get to the rear. Or, alternatively, I suppose, even though I don't think this exists, they have to crisscross down from McLean to get there. It's essential to whether or not this proposal would work. And 30 years ago, we dealt with this in this probably room, as before I was in college, but they dealt with it in this room, and they said, we want to avoid that. And now, this application, it's a requirement of it. It's up to you to determine the adequacy of the application and the suitability of a piece of property for the proposed application. And I submit to you, and I promised I'd keep my comments brief, this does not meet that threshold. It's the burden of the applicant to satisfy you, and I'm hearing some very good concerns from this board. Mr. Kennedy very ably observed that it's not just a MUND application, it's not just some waivers, it is a conditional use permit. This applicant needs to satisfy you that MUND is appropriate on the particular property. That's their burden. It's not my burden, it's not the bank's burden, it's their burden to demonstrate to your satisfaction to do. The only other thing that I'll talk about granularly is you're gonna have some sort of restaurant there. I know it's a little bit opaque at this point in time. Pursuant to 8.7.6 of your site plan review, you gotta have truck loading. It's another requirement of the site plan, given that particular use. There's no truck loading here, and I mean, for good reason. You know, there's not enough room on this site. It dovetails into the very objections that I've talked about before. So I hope I haven't delved too deeply into the easement issue. I know you very patiently waited on that. We'll pursue our remedies for a different tribunal on that, but I would submit to you, as we talk here today, this application is inappropriate for this particular lot, and I'd ask you to deny it as currently configured. Again, my client would like to see that develop, but this is too much for this particular lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Todd Fahey. I represent Bank Prov, and I'm loath to even use the word easement. So I won't talk much about easements, except to say we've made our cases on the easement, and I join with Attorney Hilson. We may have to just deal with that elsewhere if necessary. But I do, a few weeks back in late August, I wrote a letter and just gently tried to remind you all, seeing that we were getting adrift in the easement discussion, that there were certain parts of your ordinance and your site plan regs that that are obligatory. They're not simply aspirational, and they're preconditions to approval. So I tried to flag those, and I was very happy to hear everybody getting into that tonight. And I will say this: the bank is not trying to be a bad neighbor to this project. But I do think it's fair when we talk about property rights that you can't offload the burdens of your project onto a neighbor. I mean, you wouldn't want to see it if it was your house, right? I mean, at some point when we talk about the realities of backing up or this or that, I understand that historically things happen in the realities, as the vice chair said tonight. And it's fine, I think, in that context to talk about it, but it's very different when you're living this reality. And so you're not just approving this for today, you're approving it for the future. So just a little snapshot, and I'll end my comments very quickly. Bank Prov is going to be taken over by Needham Bank. That was just approved a couple days ago, final approval. Bank Prov, you heard it from the folks who aren't here tonight, but they have a much more relaxed work-at-home policy than does Needham Bank. So we can't fairly say, and they said, that Needham Bank's going to have staff in that office 3 or 4 times more than does Bank Prov now. Who knows what the future is going to be for the drive-through? I don't dispute this fine gentleman's comments about the lack of use in the drive-through, but we're in a dynamic time, right? So you have this, and I really, really appreciate, as a person who appears before many boards and has sat on many myself, your patience with us and your deliberations. I really mean that, regardless of what you decide. So thank you for that. But I think being really thoughtful about this and trying to get it right, whether it's a right sizing, whether it's different texture with crosswalks, whether you have a suggestion that you want the bank to think about in talking to Mr. Lanzetta and his client, we'll hear it. So I'm just going to end there, and I won't even say the E word again. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Linus.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
May I rebut, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll say this again. I appreciate, I have spoken with both Chris and Todd kind of ad nauseum at this point about this entire situation, and I appreciate their candor and their willingness to talk. I'll talk about what Todd said quickly and then jump into a few things that were mentioned by Chris, but, you know, we're not trying to offload the burden of this property on a neighbor. We're actually completely complying by putting all of the parking on our property, and we're using the access that we have by right. So you can't offload that burden unless you have an easement, right? And we're not even proposing to use the easement for parking necessarily. We are using it for access because we have been forced to do that, and there's no way around that for this property, for any project on this property. And I agree with Chris. When you raise a building, yeah, you can start with a clean slate in a lot of situations. But I've done a lot of work on very tight quarters and large city blocks, and this is akin to that. There's a very small portion of property that can be developed. We're trying to comply with the ordinance with setbacks. We're trying to comply with an overlay district that wants walkable pedestrian ways in front of buildings. And we went through many machinations of double buildings or a building up front or trying to push it backwards. And because of the way the traffic flow is structured and because of the size of the lot, which is intentional, this lot is intentionally this size. It's impossible to really stray from where this building is. So we're not attempting to offload the burden, and our compliance shows that. We are very willing to work with Todd and Bank Prov or Needham to talk about signage, textures, all that stuff. And so hopefully we'll come into a private agreement outside of this. Regarding the access, this is a tough one for me. So I did speak with Laura. I've said that. I'm not sure if it's worth our time tonight to go through the entire easement presentation and including the permitting. I see shaking heads no, I agree.
We have other business.
The problem that I have is that if I don't, I haven't preserved it for the record. But unequivocally, I've seemingly convinced town council, and the thing is, I'm not writing a book of fiction with the chain of title because that's not how the chain of title works. I'm doing math. This is math. Chain of title says X, it results in Y, and it equals, and that's what it equals. My folly was not providing more specific guidance earlier, and I apologize for that. But the right for any successor in interest to access to use the Manor property, the Margaritas property, or Bank Prov is unequivocally present. It's very simple. The blue chain of title shows it. It's very simple. And so it's difficult because there's a juxtaposition of some amorphous, fictitious lack of access, which simply isn't true. And that's being juxtaposed with the word safety, and specifically now, pedestrian safety. And for me, safety is the big bad word that gets thrown out in order to deny anything, right? That's what we all know. But here, as far as 8.7 and our compliance with your ordinance, the fact that we can provide engineered plans that comply with all the engineering standards shows that compliance. And by providing the ways that are here that comply with the right sizes and the right metrics, that is the compliance with safety. And I agree, there can be many different things that happen, but the application by itself complies on that front with the ordinance. And I want to read something from the planning board minutes from June 12th of 97. So this is, or I'll paraphrase, but so we have Mr. Rowe asking McLean Manor if there's an easement for passing on the D'Agostino property in 97. And the response is that there's an affirmative easement across all three properties, and in the minutes it lists McLean Manor, the Blue Ribbon, and Roar's Restaurant. Roar's in this meeting was being redeveloped into KFC, creating unidirectional parking flow, and then being redeveloped into Bank Prov. He stated the easements did exist, which allowed cross-access and parking to and from the Globe Shopping Center, owned by First Development Property, and the Blue Cleaners site. Blue Ribbon should be. I agree with Chris. There's cross-access here. There's no other way to design this. So the original developers ended up divesting themselves of the Margaritas Plaza, purchasing these three little pieces in one shot, creating them all at the same time. There's a Genesis deed at book 1712, page 201. And that gives you the meets and bounds and the easements. That Genesis deed is referenced through the chain of title consistently over and over and over again. And those access rights remain. And there's no other way to look at this other than the developers benefited by creating small lots and granting all of these other access and parking rights. That's how they were able to do this. The fact that 60-something years later, there has never been a need or desire by anyone to clarify what's happening is actually proof that, one, it's working, and two, they need, it was intentionally done this way. If that wasn't the intent, they would have had very specific parameters in all of these easements. They don't. They were very broad. You heard from Brian. There were handshake deals happening. In the 60s, no curb cuts existed. DOT wasn't enforcing those until much later. So the intent was cross-traffic, and all we can do now is take every engineering standard that we have and apply them, and that is how you look at 8.7 and say, we are safe. We've applied the appropriate 2025 engineering standards, and here's the plan. And I don't mean to drone on. It's just that there just simply is a fiction that the access doesn't exist. And I believe I've proven that very clearly. And I actually think it's very easy to see in each chain of title, because if you look at every modern deed, so the last deed in the chain of title, you will see reference to the Genesis deed. It's in every single one of them. It's unequivocal. And so I don't know why we've went down this path other than we're writing a fiction story that just keeps getting, it's very creative. And that's the attorney's fault on this. It has nothing to do with the board. So I apologize for that, but there is cross-access. It is necessary, and we have complied with the safety regulations, both from an engineering standpoint and within the ordinance. So that's my response to that. And it's acknowledged, even in the minutes from when they did this. It's all intentional. And intent matters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else we have at this point, or shall we?
Yeah, you've got our list.
Yep.
Can I ask a question to the applicant, just because of one of the comments made me question this? So where is the truck loading happening for the commercial property?
Do we know, Jeff, for truck loading, how that's? Yeah.
What I mean?
I believe the back of the property is a pretty obvious spot. There's inload, outload there, or there's a door there at least.
But the
Parking.
restaurant's in the front.
Yeah.
There's I believe, Jeff, is there a throughway to get from the back to the restaurant, right? The whole side of it? Right. So there's multiple accesses on three sides, and the access in the back does go straight through to that commercial space on purpose.
You're probably going to be parking your truck someplace and two-wheeling your inventory.
I would think it would be in the back lot there, as many loading zones in a property like this would be between those, between the parking spots back there, limited to in duration, to some shorter duration.
Yeah.
We could certainly draft, be happy to put that onto the plan and draft that up. It's
should.
not a problem.
I think that would be good to show that on the plans.
Sure.
And show like the doors to the building and how that actually connects.
Those are on the architecturals. We can incorporate that, though, if you would like a loading plan that shows that. I think Mr. Fieldson has a comment to make.
I wish I could somehow get you, oops, I'm sorry. I wish I could somehow get you this picture of the Staples trucks and the bank shredding trucks parking on our lot, which we work with because we're a neighbor. They're there for 30 minutes to an hour.
And they're gone.
Doesn't create any problems. Trucks park where trucks park.
Right, but as part of the site plan review, you, as the applicant, need to show us that it's possible, not that, oh, they'll just figure it out. That's the same with snow storage, it's the same with everything. Like, we need to see that there's at least a way to do it that's believable.
I agree with
And
you.
I'm not seeing it on the plan, so
Yeah,
that's
so
all.
we're happy to draft that for you.
And also just to clarify, the way I'm looking at these architectural plans, you cannot get to the coffee spot out front from the back through the building. You can get there from the side, but you cannot get there from the back. The 2 residential units in the back, you'd have to go through those residential units, and that's not happening, to deliver to the coffee shop. So, yeah, so any delivery is going to have to go either the front or the side,
It's proposed as a hallway, I believe.
from the side, not from the back.
He's saying it. Marty said on the back, too.
Right. I'm sorry?
But we,
There's a door on the north side of the building that looks like it accesses the commercial. Actually, there's a door on both sides of the building that looks like it accesses the
You can get in
commercial.
from the side, but you cannot get in there from the back.
Yeah, so you'd have to go around on the little 5-foot wide sidewalk with your delivery, yeah.
won't be easy.
Which I'm not sure that that is non-compliant with anything. I mean, I hear you. I'm still confused if there's not a hallway from the back. But a 5-foot sidewalk's actually.
The question is, where is the truck going to pull up and park to deliver something to the coffee
Yeah.
shop?
I think in the back of the lot between the parking spots would be an obvious spot. Right.
Just add it to the plan.
Yeah,
Simple.
and that's what I've said. We're happy to draw that for you. It's not a problem at all.
Debate that.
Jen, did we get bicycles included here, okay?
I think they have that on their list.
Yeah, they mentioned that a couple times.
I know it's,
Are you
we're
going to continue this hearing, or what are we doing, Lang?
going to have to ask permission if the developer would like to.
Well, I think we should
allow
probably
it
do that.
today, because we're
I don't
running-
think we're getting any further this
Yeah,
evening.
I think, yeah.
Okay. We have a 2-minute recess.
Yes.
Jen, did you see anything on the landscape plan that, I started on that, but you weren't here.
Honestly,
Sorry.
I'm fine. I mean, it's fine.
I don't
It's
mean
not-
to put you on the spot. You brought it up earlier, so I thought maybe the door was open a little bit for
Yeah.
comment or. I don't even,
I honestly don't think it's that, there's not a lot of,
it's not a,
I think it's fine. I don't know.
okay.
I'm not blown away by it. It's not what I would do, but.
We're happy to continue to next month,
Okay.
if that's
Okay,
possible.
thank you.
All right.
I'll have Christian, I have a list
Yeah.
here.
You want to hit it one real quick time, one last quick time, in
Yeah,
case
if you
you
don't
jog
mind,
someone's
that way
memory?
I know
Yeah.
exactly. It'll be in
Certainly
the
worth
minutes.
doing.
We'll be all very clear on it. So we've got a loading plan page, a walkway to connect the patio to the kiosk. And I'll ask Christian to evaluate that based on the engineering review to make sure there's not something that they said, really, hey, this is a real problem. EV conduit for 2 vehicles, a bike stand. We're going to fix the sidewalk image that is currently dead-ending from Bank Prop into the planting bed to just show that that does actually continue through. That's just a little typo, I think. We'll switch the ADA parking to the front of the building. We'll confirm the grade changes and/or railings when we look at the walkway issue from the patio to the kiosk. And then we will confirm and/or redraft a planting plan, landscape plan, which would likely most likely focus on the front of that building.
Did we talk about lighting at all?
No.
They do have a lighting plan.
We had a lighting plan.
It seemed
from the west.
fine, but I'm just, did anybody have any concerns about it? That they want to let?
Yeah, I thought it was discussed at a previous meeting,
Yeah,
which is
we
why
did.
I didn't
Okay.
bring it up again.
It was, yeah.
We discussed snow already in the past already on this. I think he's got what we gave him tonight, yes? I think you got the gist.
I feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I mean, I think the only, oh, I'm sorry, Lang, go ahead.
You spoke about handicap access on the front,
Yep, he said that.
and as I recall discussion, we talked, keep the one that you have in the back, but add one to the front.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good idea.
please. I think that's what the plan was.
Yeah, I think that would be ideal if
So-
we can do that.
Carol, when will we want to be moving this to?
Before you head there, I just want to make sure I make it clear to the applicant what my primary concern is, and that is that the 7 parking spaces out front, in front of the coffee shop, I truly believe the parking demand for that coffee shop is going to be substantially greater than those 7 spaces. And that means that 8 o'clock in the morning, what's going to happen is all those spaces are going to be used. And there's going to be people parking in the bank lot, going in and running across and getting their coffee. And we're going to have people pulling out of those 7 spaces while people are running across to get their coffee. At the same time, you're going to have people coming in, trying to get a parking space and want to get their coffee, and then they're going to be driving around looking for a space because it's going to be difficult. That's my primary concern.
And no drive-up window.
Right.
I hear you. I acknowledge it. It's
I don't know
why
if you know
we.
anything about it, but I just want you to know that's my concern.
Yeah, and that's why we reduced the seat count. And again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but the compliance with what the ordinance asks us to do is what we're doing, and that's the standard for that exact issue, that we've mitigated that by following your ordinance.
Yeah, and I understand.
And I'm not trying to be combative
No,
with you. I don't have another answer for
Yeah,
that.
I understand. I understand that. I guess I would just say, again, this is about, what our ordinance requires and what, some of us know is going to happen. The ordinance that you're using for the parking demand is based on the number of seats, and that's seats in a restaurant. And if you're trying to determine the parking demand for a restaurant, the best use is the number of seats. If you're trying to determine the demand for a coffee shop, it's not seats, because people park, run in, get their coffee and come out. It's the square footage. And if you look at the square footage of that and the parking demand that would be required for that, it's substantially greater than the 7 spaces.
I hear you. Yeah, it's difficult because if that's the case, then the ordinance needs to clearly state that and create a requirement that applicants in the public can actually follow. And it's the meat and potato. This is the argument I get into on a nightly basis all week long for the last 20 years. I get it, and I really do. I acknowledge it, but the compliance is the thing that we're evaluating right now.
I just want to say that I concur with Marty. I don't think that those are, I've expressed that I don't think the slope is appropriate for those parking spaces, the way they're configured, and I don't like the backing out, and the combination of the backing out with the pedestrian traffic that's going to be generated. I don't think I just don't like those parking spaces. I think it'd be great to see alternatives. I had one other thing that this is more of a question, but the building setbacks listed on your zoning table on sheet 4 in the site plan lists 50 feet as the front setback. My understanding is that the MUND for the C2 is 25 feet setback. So by right, this building could be moved much closer to the street. I know that was,
can't be
we're
because
complying with the zoning has been.
The egress lane that has been forced on the applicant is in that setback.
The egress lane.
So we are forced to exit our property in a very specific spot,
Oh,
and we are unable to utilize more front space because of that, the current egress lane that this board forced on the applicant's property.
okay.
So we have thought of that, and if we could avail ourselves of something different, we likely would have. But again, the tagline in my mind when I'm doing this title search is the poor blue ribbon. It's a tiny lot that has been burdened, and quite frankly, is now getting picked on by the other lots that have been utilizing it for 60-plus years. And the burden has also been embedded with a planning decision for Kentucky Fried Chicken, which isn't even there anymore. When I say machination, I'm using that word, every word I'm using intentionally. The engineers have, in my understanding, jumped through back hoops to try to figure out how to do this with the town planning department and with the council of third-party review to utilize this. And the best way to use this property that we've come up with, also given that there are test pits out front and all that other stuff, is that we leave the building where it is because we cannot affect the egress lane, which somehow in the fake news isn't technically allowed, which is bananas. So it's very clear. Bank Prov can access Blue Ribbon can access Bank Prov, Blue Ribbon can access McLean, Blue Ribbon can access Margaritas. It's very clear. I have no doubt about it. So that being said, we can't get away from that lane. There's nothing we can do about it. It's not our property. So we're stuck where we are. That's the headline there for the poor blue ribbon. But
All right, so we're tabling?
Yeah, we're going to table it.
Could you just update the setback requirements
yeah, I have it
on the zoning
list.
table?
Yeah,
Okay,
got it.
thank you.
When's our next day? Be good for this?
Well, your schedule in November is changed, so instead of the first and third Thursdays, you're meeting the 2nd and the 4th, so November 6th and November 20th are your November dates.
Okay, and there's room on either?
Yes.
We'd request the 6th, please.
6th?
Yes, please.
All right.
Then I need
You need a motion?
need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion. I'm going to move to continue the hearing of Planning Board Case Number 25-3, Jeff Cayley Associates regarding 97 Portsmouth Avenue to November 6th at 7 p.m. What is this, the NOAC room?
Yep.
At the NOAC room.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
All
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your patience, gentlemen. Appreciate the extension. Thank you for your comments.
I know that.
Have a good time. Thanks for coming.
Aye, Jason?
Thanks, Chris. Good to see you.
That's over 9 o'clock. so that's-
Take care. Yeah.
Next item on the agenda is,
Steve.
come on, Steve, up to the table.
Sorry.
We're trying to get you in front of the line, but
Oh, my God.
That's all right. All I can say is that I'm hoping I'm still here in a few years to work with this board on Portsmouth Ave improvements and
there you go.
achieve some of those goals.
So the next
Get some
item,
more easements going, right?
next item on the agenda is to an easement acquisition on Phillips Exeter property. It's off Drinkwater Road. It's tax map parcel number 71-119. And Carol, did you have anything to say about this one?
No, actually, Mr. Chairman, we did not do a staff review on this. This is, a very straightforward application, if you will, and we were simply relying on the DPW staff to make the presentation to you.
Okay. let's move right along.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair,
just-
members of the board. So I know that you all are well aware of this project, but I'll just give a brief recap. So since 2020, the town has been actively working to develop a new groundwater source in an effort to diversify its water supplies, expand capacity, and provide for operational redundancy. From 2020 to 2022, the Public Works Department conducted a groundwater exploration program to identify potential development zones. A total of 22 borings were drilled across 3 target zones. The most promising site was located on Phillips Exeter property off Drinkwater Road. In 2022, we installed a test well at the site, which yielded positive results. Following that, the town submitted a preliminary well siting application to the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. And in 2023, we received preliminary approval for a new source, provided that the town secure an easement for the new well and all the associated infrastructure. So in August of '24, we finalized an option agreement with PEA to negotiate the purchase of the easement, contingent upon the town obtaining all the necessary approvals for the new source. Later that fall, we installed a production well, completed a 7-day pumping test as part of the application process, and in May of this year, we submitted the final well siting application and report to DES with a requested production volume of 400 gallons per minute. DES recently completed their review of the report and is prepared to issue the final large groundwater withdrawal permit once we provide documentation demonstrating that we've secured the easement and have legal control over the sanitary protective area for the new well. So under RSA 4114A, the board has now referred that easement to you for review and recommendation. And then they intend to hold two public hearings, the first one on Monday night, the second one at the subsequent meeting, and then vote on acquiring the easement. So the easement itself, I don't know if you're able to pull the plan up or not, but it's comprised of sort of 3 different sections. One is a 615-foot by 30-foot wide easement along the White Trail for access and for the installation of electrical. We have a 440-foot radius around the wellhead itself, which is considered the sanitary protection area for the well, and also a 2,320-foot long by 20-foot wide easement from the well radius under the Exeter River to the Larry Lane well, which will encompass the transmission main to bring the water from the new well to the Larry Lane treatment plant.
It'll come from Larry Lane over to Portsmouth Ave, huh?
Yes.
How deep do you have to go to get 400 gallons a minute?
It's just over 100 feet, the depth of the well. So, yeah. The pump will probably be set somewhere around 90 feet deep. Yeah. But
And how do you check the, how do you, other than, copper rods, how do you decide?
there's quite a bit of assessment that goes into it. There's some review of aerial photography to look for, fractures and soil conditions, tree line, that type of stuff. But ultimately, they look at soils and, the underlying confined areas, make some educated guesses, and through a lot of testing, find the best ones. So, yeah.
Were there any comments from the Conservation Commission? You met with them on the 14th, was it?
Yep.
Did they have any
Yeah, the
concerns or?
Conservation Commission, they voted in favor to recommend the easement. They had one recommendation on the easement deed itself, that we explicitly call out the right to withdraw the water, based on some feedback from one of the commission members who works for DES. So they had run into another issue. So we're currently engaged with town council on that to make that minor modification. But other than that, there were no real concerns from them. So,
Okay.
Heritage Commission, their only feedback was just do everything we can in our power to make sure that we protect Jude's Pond and during construction and through access. So,
Okay.
yep.
We're not looking at another unknown rock under the river, are we?
No, we have done some borings along the path for the transmission main. Haven't hit any refusal there, so we don't anticipate the same issues we had with the siphons. Obviously, it's a much shorter crossing, so we're able to access more of it with those borings, so we're pretty confident. I will say that I think we learned some valuable lessons from the siphons project, and we are going to be incorporating some elements into the bid process that will, I think, offer us a little bit more protection in the event that we should run into something unforeseen.
That pipe will go to the Larry Lane pump station?
Yes.
Does
Yep.
that get to the reservoir?
No, so that'll go to the Larry Lane pump station, and that water will be treated at the Larry Lane groundwater treatment plant.
All right.
And then from there, straight to the distribution system.
Oh, it's treated there.
Yes, yep.
So it goes, but I never understood it in the town here. I mean, so they might be drinking different water than I am.
Correct, yes, yep. I mean, it all gets mixed in the system, but, you know, there are areas that tend to see more of the groundwater source than the surface water source, yes.
So we have a suggested motion here.
Sure. I'll make a motion.
You got it, would you? Okay,
To
please.
send a memo to the select board indicating that the planning board recommends the acquisition of an easement over the Phillips Exeter Academy property, tap parcel number 71-119, as depicted on the plans provided entitled Overall Site Plan, Exeter Groundwater Improvements, prepared by Underwood Engineers dated January 2025, no day, for the purpose of the proposed construction of a new groundwater supply well and its associated infrastructure.
Is there a second?
I second.
You're not acting. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Practice. Good try. Practice. Come on.
How about you, Marty?
I second.
Okay.
Making sure
Moved and
Lane's awake.
I think a voice vote will be okay. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, and again, I apologize for not putting you on first.
That's all right, thank you very much for your time.
And thank you for everything you guys do.
Yeah.
All right, where is it? Just when I have everything organized, everything falls apart. Yeah, all right, Peter, thank you very much. Okay, we took care of the first one, master plan discussion? Anything going on there?
I'll just say that we met, the committee met on October 2nd. We met with with Scott Bogle, the Rockingham Planning Commission, on the work that they're doing.
Oh, good.
We have another meeting coming up. It's going to be on, it's going to be on November 6th, morning, and we'll know more. We'll fill you in after that.
Great, great.
Scott.
Yeah.
Land use regulation review, no any field modifications?
We have one field modification for 46 Main Street, very minor, relocating a utility pole. So the town engineer has received a plan, as far as I know, that's going ahead.
Good, thank you.
Is that just to clarify, is that the project that's right next to Main Street School?
No.
46 Main Street?
Oh,
Oh,
the one up, where the garage was?
Yeah.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Where the
Okay.
garage was,
Yeah.
yes, yes, on the corner,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
yes.
Okay. No bond letters or credit requests?
No,
All right.
You gonna
No.
do the minutes or no?
Oh, yeah, sure, let's do the minutes, only 9:15.
Okay.
however, I do have some
Yes.
small regulation change for upcoming town meeting. There are two changes that I think you need to make with the zoning required by recent legislation. So there have been some changes to the accessory dwelling unit law, and what you have complies, so there isn't any need to make any changes to the substance of your regulation ordinance, but the definition has changed. It's not a big deal, but I think in general it's a good idea to have your definitions match the state definitions. And because they now include detached dwelling units as a requirement. So you can't prohibit them anymore, but you already allow them. But the definition, the statutory definition now expands and has a specific definition for attached and detached. So that is a change that could be made. And then the parking, which we have discussed ad nauseum. So that has changed, that for any residential unit now, there can only be one parking space. So you would need to change just your, 5.6.6, your off-street parking requirements, and then that would, by default, affect all of the other places in the ordinance that reference that. And then the code officer has suggested making a change to the permitted uses by changing animal boarding kennels from a permitted use in C2, C3, and CT1 to a special exception use. He has encountered a number of conflicts with having that as a permitted use in those districts where that bumps up against a residential use. So that's something for you to think about. And then finally, within the subdivision and site plan regulations, the post office has a requirement now, a mandate, if you will, that for subdivisions, although it's not clear what size subdivisions, they will no longer deliver internally to individual mailboxes, so they want a kiosk, a mail kiosk. So, I mean, that's a simple thing to add to the subdivision and site plan regs, just that, the applicant would have to demonstrate a compliance with that, their location, they would show that on their plan.
Carol, I'm
So
sorry,
those
on that one, is that subdivisions as well, or condominiums, or?
Probably, well, depending upon the layout of them, it's not, I need to do a little more research on that.
Yeah.
It's not really clear
Okay.
at what point that would trigger.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that if.
Condos
it's
for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if there's a frontage lot, then perhaps they're still okay with,
Yeah.
with having boxes.
Sure.
But that is not clear, and of course, I can't
That's okay.
find the language, but at
Yeah.
any rate. So in terms of timing for this, I don't think that these would need more than one public hearing. I mean,
I think our past, we've done two.
Yeah.
I think we've done one where we debate proposed wording. Okay, and then we agree as a
Then we have a
board, we
second.
take public comment on that as well. And then the next time, so then we notify again, and then the next time, we don't change anything. And our intent is that's what it's gonna be. So that first hearing is almost like a work session, if you will.
Okay.
Where in the past recently, the planner would give us some proposed wording. We'd hash it out as a group and take input from the public.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd come up with it, and then he'd bring it back he'd put that out there to notice again, and the next time, we'd vote to send it forward to the public meeting, the town meeting.
Okay, perfect. Well,
Yeah.
there is time, if you had that first
It always gets
one-
tight with it, for sure, yeah.
Well, we've got until February 3rd.
Okay.
So if you have the first one on December 11th, and you're only meeting once in December.
Right.
Then you've got time in January
Yeah.
to have that second one, and then we
Perfect.
meet the deadline.
Great.
Perfect.
So it
Yep.
works.
Yep, that works, yep.
Excellent.
And this would be the time where I guess we all can be thinking, if we have any suggested changes to the ordinance that we are thinking about. I don't know of any off top of my head right now, but
I think we need to review MUD.
review MUND. Well, that's a big one. But-
Well, I actually have someone coming in on Monday to talk about a petition, so
Okay.
I will
Yeah.
update you at the next
Does it
meeting.
not take a lot of,
see
what is
that
it, 25 citizens?
25
It's a pretty
signatures, yeah.
small number, really.
Yeah, it is. And I wasn't intending to propose anything else, just because I didn't think it was a good idea for, me to come in here and take
Sure.
a scalpel to your zoning ordinance while your planner is out,
you.
so.
Well,
I
if you
thought
see anything egregious, it would make sense.
I agree,
Sometimes a new set of eyes is a good thing, but.
absolutely.
You know what the petition is for?
I don't. I won't know until Monday morning.
To get rid of the planning board, I think.
Yeah, I would absolutely suggest, I mean, as a board, we can contemplate whatever your suggestion is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a,
You certainly have a different background and different experience, and I know from working with Dave in the past few years and prior planners, but Dave most recently, you know, he certainly brought a lot of his experience from other work in other communities and has worked on our ordinance with things he's had success with in the past and things he's fallen into traps in the past and avoided, you know, so if you see something,
say something.
yeah, please do. Please do. Please do, because
All right, then.
So since we're suggesting it, there's about 30% of municipalities in New Hampshire require the planting plan to be stamped by a licensed landscape
Yay.
architect.
Yes, that's.
And I would love to, I think Exeter should be one of them. I think,
Say that
like, I'm not always going to be on the board, I'm not always at every meeting.
yeah.
They should be,
Well, some of the plans we get are really nothing. I mean, they're all going to you now. I know
right,
you're on this board.
yeah.
And
And I'd like
I've
to-
respected your comment of,
Yeah.
hey, I shouldn't be landscape designing for you. But that's what they seem to be
Yeah.
wanting to do, is like, well, Jen's gonna, you know, have her own input anyway, so let's let her do it.
Yeah, I've heard that comment and I don't.
I wouldn't
don't love
appreciate
it.
that if
Yeah.
I were you.
So, yeah, I think, I'd like to, if we can,
So the process for that would be probably, Jen, you send it to Carol.
okay.
Carol brings it to us at the next, when is it, the next hearing, or is it the one after that you're gonna do this?
That
The
would
zoning
be-
ordinance
Yeah, I
wording?
would want to have everything ready for you to look at on December 11th.
December 11th, so you got plenty
Oh,
of
okay,
time.
okay. I mean, I'd probably end up just looking at what other municipalities write, because I don't know
Well,
how to write
yeah.
zoning code.
I'm sorry, with the caveat that this will be posted, it needs to be posted
Right.
the 10/12 days prior,
Right.
at which time I need to have, you know, the actual
Wording.
language
Yeah,
when the notice comes out.
so cut and paste, the sooner the better.
Yeah, I'll probably email you like draft language until you like, feel free to massage it or change it or whatever. Yeah.
Perfect.
But don't lose the message, don't erase the message.
The only one that comes to mind to me is the landscaping within 5 feet of the property line. We waive that
Grading.
all the time. Yeah, grading, sorry,
Yeah.
my bad. But I personally feel like as long, and again, I won't be on this board forever either, so, but I do feel that because we acknowledge and recognize and grant that waiver so consistently, it isn't terrible to have it there because it just brings attention to the fact you're impacting your neighbor very directly when you're doing work that close to your property line, so.
And the neighbor needs to know.
Like
I
46
think, yeah.
Main Street.
Then stop waving
Right.
it.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah, stop waving it.
We
Right.
can do that.
You don't have to
Right,
wave
as you
it.
do every day, a couple times.
Well, that's not the habit we formed, but
I know.
that doesn't mean we can't change our habit.
Yeah, I like having it because it forces the applicant to
Justify it.
just say, yeah, to justify it, exactly, and to not do like crazy grading.
And be careful over there when they're working on the, yeah.
And we're gonna have this debate in a couple weeks or so, it sounds like anyway, but I do just want you all to think about the change that code enforcement is suggesting. We're taking something from a right, a property right, a use right, and making it a special exception. That's a huge burden on the property owner, one versus the other. Now, when you have a property right, you still have to comply with the ordinance. Doesn't mean you can just do whatever you want to do, but it's a permitted use. Now, if you make that a special exception, or special permission, essentially, you have to go through, it's like a waiver, essentially. So that's a big burden. I appreciate and know of a couple things that code enforcement has dealt with in that regard, so I understand where it's coming from. But that is a big change. That's a zoning change. That's not just a little wording minutia thing. That's a
Okay.
property right change, you know?
Could we hear from the code enforcement officer?
Wouldn't be the
Like,
worst.
invite him to come in
Even if he
and just
writes
tell us?
something,
Yeah. just kind of
Whatever he feels
explain.
comfortable with. I mean, Doug's a very eloquent, reasonable person to talk to, always. And why does he think that should happen? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I personally don't get excited about taking property rights away from people. I don't.
No.
They bought them with a certain rights.
Yeah.
And you start to take them away, I think we got to be careful about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Minutes?
Minutes,
No, just-
September 25th, 2025. Any comments? Corrections? Don't all speak at once.
I didn't see any.
Got anything, Sam?
That's pretty
I wasn't
perfect.
here.
Good start now.
No, I had nothing. Daniel's getting better all the time.
Would you like to make a motion?
Let's see, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 25th, 2025.
As presented?
As presented.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
No? Nays? Abstentions? Okay, they have been approved.
I have something
Yes,
before we leave.
Halloween? No.
Not yet, Halloween. In April of 2026, our terms expire at RPC.
Oh, they
Whether
do.
you or I, or both of us decide to keep going, that's just a reminder for us, but with towns between, with population of between 10 and 25,000, they can have 3 representatives for the town as commissioners to the RPC. The entity has offered to be a third person.
Okay.
If we want to take him in, and then we can send a letter to the select board and they can give him the stamp of approval.
We haven't had,
And I've got
haven't had
paperwork.
that third seat filled till when, how soon we forget?
Yeah.
What's the name left?
Well,
Pete?
oh,
Pete.
Catherine.
Catherine, yeah, not
Catherine.
Pete.
And I think
Catherine.
Pete, but he never,
Yeah,
yeah. So there's the information sheet on how
Okay.
that is, how we proceed with that. But
All
I
right.
think we need to vote tonight or the next meeting on our selection of Matt Marty.
well,
I would say vote now.
I would say my vote now.
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Do we get this lazy bone busy?
Get him moving?
Yeah, it's gonna make him a commissioner though, you see.
Yeah.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. We'll forward that
The select board.
to Select Board. So if you can see that we prepare a little letter for the Select Board for that, please. Thank you. Oh. You did make a motion, didn't you?
Till we go home?
Motion to adjourn?
Can we go home? Yes, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much with this challenging case, by the way.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Bi-Weekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.